Hi, my name is Billy Flowers, and welcome to my channel where I talk about velocity banking and how we can use this strategy to massively pay off debt. So in today's video is from a comment that I got in one of my videos asking if I can do a scenario where one person gets paid every 2 weeks and the other gets paid every week. This question comes up often with velocity banking because most of the times we just do a lump sum, a monthly lump sum, and then all the expenses coming out. And people are wondering if this strategy can work with you either getting paid every 2 weeks or every week. And the answer is always the same. Of course you can, because at the end of the day, if in this instance, if you make $5,500, it doesn't matter how that is split up. It doesn't matter if you get paid once a month, if you get paid twice a month, or you get paid every week. The number, your income is still going to be the same every single month. Doesn't matter the number of times that you get paid. It's all math. That's all it is. So I'm going to break this down and you're going to see how this is going to work with a bi-weekly paycheck and a weekly paycheck. This is going to be a lot of math, so just pay attention. We don't do it this way because it's so much. This is only 10 months worth of numbers, but you can see, it broken down and see how how much math this is. If this was only 10 months, I probably would have stopped like right around here on the board. But since I broke this down by weeks, it's a lot more math, and you can also make a lot more mistakes in this because it's just more math, and you have to zero stuff out. But you're gonna see I did. So let's get started. As usual, we're gonna start with our four key numbers. We have our income of $5,500. Our expenses are at $4,800, and our debt is $20,000, and our cash flow is at $700. Now we do have a debt tool, a line of credit for $10,000 at a 15% interest rate. And we also have two credit cards, $10,000 a piece at a 25% interest rate. And both of the cards have a $400 monthly payment. Now we do have rent at $1,500. Our car payment is at $600. And the rest of the bills that we can pay with credit cards to collect those rewards is $1,900. Now, as I mentioned before, we have two incomes in the household. One person gets paid $3,500 bi-weekly, so that'll be $1,750 every 2 weeks. And the other person gets paid $2,000 a month, and weekly that would equate to $500. So remember, pay attention to this because this is going to be a lot of math. So let's get started. We're going to take $10,000 from our line of credit and pay one of these credit cards off. So we're just going to start with credit card number one, right? So when we do that, what's going to happen? Well, this $400 monthly payment is going where? It's going bye-bye. It's going bye-bye. So we're no longer going to have this monthly payment, right? So that means that our expenses are going to go down $400. So now our expenses are going to be $4,400. And what else is going to happen? What about that most important number? We're going to get that cash flow, right? We're going to get it, right? We're going to get that cash flow. We're going to get that cash flow. Plus 400 on our cash flow. So now our cash flow is up to $1,100 day one. So, like I said, pay attention. This is month one, week one. We deployed our $10,000, right? Then we have our income for that week, first week. When we do these chunks, we always like to do them right when we get paid so we can immediately just put a chunk towards something, and then immediately we're going to put our income in to drive that balance down. That's what we do. So we're going to put $1,750 of the income one into the line and income two of $500. So that's going to bring the balance down to $7,750. And now we have our rent coming out the first week, right, of $1,500. It's going to raise the balance up to $9,250 at the end of week 1. Week 2, what happened? Well, we got that weekly pay of $500 coming in, so that's going to go into the line, bringing the balance down to $8,750. And then we're going to have our car payment and our credit card number 2 payment come out of the line, raising the balance up to $9,750 at the end of week 2. Week 3, we got that first income coming in because, remember, we get paid every 2 weeks. So $1,750 is going into the line, plus the other income, $500 for this week, lowering the balance down to $7,500 at the end of week 3. Week 4, we have our $500 going in, the last paycheck of the month for income number 2, lowering the balance down to $7,000. Now, all the rest of the expenses that we can put on our credit cards, like everything else that we're paying. So this includes, our car insurance, our going out to eat, electric, everything else is going on this credit card. Is this going to be sitting in the credit card for the 30 days? And then when the due date comes up, we're just going to pay it in full. So that's why I have the $1,900 here. So we're going to take $1,900 out of the line, pay the credit card off, and it's going to raise the balance up to $8,900. And then the interest that we're going to get charged, I did the interest off the high balance of $10,000, is going to be $125, which is going to raise the balance up to $9,025 at the end of month 1. So in month 2, week 1, we're going to have both our incomes going in. $6,775 is the balance. We have our rent coming out. It's going to raise the balance up to $8,275 at the end of week 1. Week 2, we have our income number 2 going in, lowering the balance down to $7,775. And then we have our car payment and our second credit card payment coming out, raising the balance up to $8,775 at the end of week 2. Week 3, we have both our incomes going in, lowering the balance down to $6,525 at the end of week 3. Week 4, we have our income number 2 going in, lowering the balance down to $6,025. And then our credit card, our expenses that's going on our credit card is going to get paid. It's going to raise the balance up to $7,925. And our interest that we're going to get charged is $112.81, raising the balance up to $8,037.81 at the end of month 2. Month 3, week 1, income going in, lowering the balance down to $5,787.81. Rent is coming out of the line. $7,287.81 is the balance at the end of week 1. Week 2, we have our income going in. $6,787.81 is the balance. Then we have our car payment and the payment of our credit card number 2 coming out, raising the balance up to $7,787.81 at the end of week 2. Week 3, we have both our incomes going in, lowering the balance down to $5,537.81 at the end of week 3. Week 4, we have our income going in, lowering the balance down to $5,037.81. Then we're going to be paying expenses on our credit card, paying it off in full, raising the balance up to $6,937.81. Interest, $99.06, raising the balance up to $7,036.87 at the end of month 3. Month 4, week 1, income going in, balance $4,786.87. Rent's coming out, raising the balance up to $6,286.87 at the end of week 1. Week 2, income going in, raising the balance up to $5,786.87. We have a car payment, monthly payment for credit card number 2, raising the balance up to $6,786.87 at the end of week 2. Week 3, we have both our incomes going in. The balance is going to be $4,536.87 at the end of week 3. Week 4, we have our income going in. $4,036.87 is the balance. Now we're going to be paying off our credit card of $1,900 for our expenses. $5,936.87 is the balance. $87.95 is the interest, raising the balance up to $6,024.82 at the end of month 4. Month 5, week 1, we have our income going in, lowering the balance down to $3,774.82. We have our rent coming out, balance $5,274.82 at the end of week 1. Week 2, income going in, $4,774.82 is the balance. Then we have our car payment, our credit card payment, raising the balance up to $4,774.82 at the end of week 2. Week 3, we have both our incomes going in. Balance is going to be $35.24.82 at the end of week 3. Week 4, our income's going in, raising the balance up to $3,024.82. Now we're paying our credit card off with all our expenses, raising the balance up to $4,924.82. $75.31 is the interest. Balance is going to be $5,003.13 at the end of month 5. Month 6, week 1, income going in, $2,750.13 is the balance. We have our rent, raising the balance up to $4,250.13 at the end of week 1. Week 2, our income's going in, $3,750.13 is the balance. We have our car payment, our credit card payment, raising the balance up to $4,750.13 at the end of week 2. Week 3, both our incomes going in, $2,500.13 is the balance at the end of week 3. Week 4, income going in, balance $2,000.13. We're paying our credit card off of $1,900, raising the balance right back up to $3,900.13. Interest you're going to get charged is $62.54. $3,962.67 is the balance at the end of month 6. In month 7, week 1, we have our income going in, lowering the balance down to $1,712.67. Rent is coming out. Balance is going to be $3,212.67 at the end of week 1. Week 2, we have our income going in, balance of $27.12.67. We have our car payment and credit card payment coming out, raising the balance up to $3,712.67 at the end of week 2. Week 3, we have both our incomes going in. $462.67 is the balance. We're paying our credit card off with our expenses. $2,362.67 is the balance. And we have our income going in of $500, lowering the balance down to $1,862.67. Interest that we're going to get charged is $49.53. And the balance is going to be $1,912.20 at the end of month 7. So now we're down to month 8, and this is really when you're going to have to start to pay attention, because the way I'm going to be handling the income, we're going to have a difference. I'm going to be zeroing the line out, so just pay attention. We have our balance here of $1,912.20. That was at the end of month 7. So we're going to take our first big paycheck, $1,750. It's going to lower the balance down to $162.20. Then we're going to have our rent come out. It's going to raise the balance up to $1,662.20. And then our income number 2 of $500 is going to go into the line, lowering it down to $1,162.20 at the end of week 1. And in week 2, we're going to have our car payment coming out and our credit card payment coming out, raising the balance up to $2,162.20. And that's going to be the balance at the end of week 2. Then week 3, we're going to have our income going in, our big paycheck, lowering the balance down to $412.20. So now our income number 2 of $500, but we only have to use $412 of it and 20 cents. That's going to zero the line out, and that's going to be the balance at the end of week 3. Week 4, we're going to be paying our expenses of $1,900, and it's going to raise the balance up to $1,900. And we're going to have our income of $500 going into the line, and this $87.80 is the difference that we had that we didn't use in the previous week. So we're going to also put that into the line, lowering the balance down to $1,312.80. $23.90 is going to be the interest, raising the balance up to $1,336.10 at the end of month 8. Now, month 9, week 1, since this balance is only $1,300, we're just going to use $1,336.10 of our $1,750 of income, zero this line out. Then our rent needs to be paid. So we're going to pay our rent, raising the balance up to $1,500. Then our income of $500 is going in, lowering the balance down to $1,000 at the end of week 1. Week 2, we're going to have our income number 2 going in, lowering the balance down to $500. Then we're going to be paying our car. Then we're going to be paying our credit card payment. It's going to raise the balance up to $1,500 at the end of week 2. Now we have week 3 coming up. Since the balance is only $1,500 and we have our big check of $1,750, we're only going to use $1,500 of it, zeroing this line out, and week 3 we have no balance, right? End of week 3. Then we're going to be paying our expenses. Our expenses are going to come out, raising the balance up to $1,900. This $250 is left over from the $1,750 that we didn't use. The $500 is from the previous week that we didn't have to use because the $1,750 wiped that out. And then we also have the $500 from this week, from week 4, right? So that's going to lower the balance down to $650. And we're going to get charged $16.70 in interest, raising the balance up to $666.70 at the end of month 9. And the thing about this is I can recognize my own mistakes. That's the beauty of writing these, using a board and writing numbers down, because you can catch your own mistakes. And I'm not afraid to admit that I made a mistake here. My mistake was it actually worked out in our favor, but you see this difference here of the 1750 that we get paid, and we only use 1300 of it, right? I didn't even factor that in here. I was doing this, and it's so many numbers that I forgot to even add the difference on the next week. So this $1,000 balance right here would have been even lower. It would have been like probably maybe 600 or 700 right here. So these numbers, so the rest of this just would have changed. But we're not going to factor that in right now because, like I said, life happens. Things happen when you're using these lines of credit. You might have had a month where your expenses were higher. You might have went out or something. So that just leaves us with a little bit more wiggle room. So let's continue. Like I said, the balance went up to $666.70. Then we have our big income of $1,750. So what are we going to do? We're going to use $666 of that and zero this line out. Rent is going to come out, raising the balance up to $1,500. Then the difference that's left over, right? The difference is $1,083.30, lowering the balance down to $416.30. And then, of course, we have our income number two of $500. So we're just going to use $416 of that, zero that out, end of week one. Week two, we have got to pay our car, got to pay our credit card. The balance is going to be $1,000. The income that was left over from the $500 income from the previous week is $83.30, raising the balance up to $916.30 at the end of week two. Week three, remember, we're getting two paychecks this time. The big paycheck is going to wipe this out, zeroing the line out. So remember, we're going to have a difference now, and we still have our $500 paycheck, our other paycheck that we didn't even have to use. So we have that in reserve. So we're going to zero this line out, end of week three. Week four, our expenses are going to get paid, right? $1,900. Then the difference, like I mentioned, of the big check, $833.33, is going into the line, lowering the balance down to $1,066.33. Now remember that $500 I mentioned that we got in reserve? Going to go into the line. And we're also getting the $500 that we got paid this week. So that's going to lower the balance down to $66.30. Now, just from the mistake alone, you already know that this was going to be wiped out. Plus, we've been charging $1,900 every single month for at least 9 months, right? And we've been getting credit card rewards. So that would have wiped this out on top of that. We're gonna pay this off in 10 months easy if we follow this, right? 10 months. It could be a little bit more. This depends on what you do, for 10 months. But if you follow this for 10 months, you're done with one of your credit cards in 10 months, right? And then what are you going to do with the second credit card? The same exact thing, except what's going to happen? You're going to get some more cash flow, right? You're going to get another $400 of cash flow on top of your $1,100. So you're going to be at $1,500, and your expenses are going to go down from $4,400 to $4,000. So now you got an extra $400 to play with every single month. So this payoff in 10 months, next time is probably going to be like 7 to 8 months. That's how this works. But like you see here, this is a lot of math breaking this down every single week. This is a lot more math than this. And when you have more math, more numbers, that means you could make a mistake like I did. But I'm not afraid to admit it. But this mistake right here worked out into our advantage because we know we have even more wiggle room here on top of the interest that I was calculating every month off of the high balance every single month. So we got plenty of room of error in this scenario. So I just want to thank you for watching this long video, and I appreciate the comment I had to make this scenario. So I hope this helped. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. And like I always say, get that cash flow.